Welcome to The Struggle is Real, a show for 20-somethings that are trying to figure out adulting. I'm your host, Justin Peters. Each episode, we focus on solving a problem that we will face throughout this defining decade that wasn't covered in the classroom. This could include topics about our career, health, relationships, and money. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome into The Struggle is Real. I'm your host, Justin Peters, and man, do we have a story for you today. Today's guest is former NFL offensive lineman Marques Ogden. Marques played in the NFL for nearly 6 years. He was drafted in 2003 by the Jaguars and went on to play with the Ravens, Bills, and Titans. While he was with the Ravens, Marques played with his brother, Pro Hall of Famer Jonathan Ogden. While his NFL career ended in 2007, this was only the start of Marques' rollercoaster life story. After leaving the NFL, Marques went through a stage of depression while he struggled with an identity crisis. He picked himself up and started Kayden Premier Enterprises, which grew to the largest minority-owned subcontractor in the state of Maryland. Life was good until a bad business deal sent Marques' business spiraling into bankruptcy. Marques was left with $400 to his name. He swallowed his pride, and former NFL player and 8-figure business owner took a job as an overnight janitor, making $8.25 an hour. After a rough ending to one of his shifts, Marques decided it was time to reinvent himself again. But before he could do that, he needed to look back on his life choices and own the fact that his decisions, not someone else's actions, led him to his current life situation. Today, Marques is a 2-time author, keynote speaker, executive coach, and corporate trainer. Marques' story is an inspiration, and I hope to illustrate the power of accountability and ownership in this episode. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with the former NFL player, overnight janitor, failed and successful business owner, Marques Ogden. Marques, my man, how are you doing?
Doing well, Justin. How about yourself? You doing all right today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. You're an interesting character. You played in, as the audience knows, you played in the NFL, and you also had a brother that played in the NFL. Actually, a Pro Hall of Famer. How was it like growing up with Jonathan? You guys were 6 years apart, so I'm assuming there wasn't as much competition as some siblings would be. What was the relationship like between the two of you?
Our relationship was great. Like you said, Justin, he's 6.5 years older than I am. So we didn't have a lot of the competition stuff. We didn't have any of that kind of going on. He supported me. I supported him. He went to UCLA to play college football. Thank goodness he was able to come back to the DC area when he got drafted by the Ravens in 1996, which was awesome. Going to see him play with the Ravens and watching him and everything else was fantastic. But really for me, having a brother who had that type of pedigree in football, having that resource available 24/7 to help me with my football game was absolutely immense because it helped me to propel myself from being a high school athlete to a college athlete to an NFL athlete.
What did you notice through observing him that differentiated himself from other athletes and the caliber of person that makes the NFL?
His work ethic was one of the best. He trained and had a lot of great discipline in the weight room. But what my brother did very well, a lot of people don't think about or realize, was he's a great student of watching film. And he was really big, Justin, on breaking opponents down and what to look for, tendencies. And that, along with his God-given ability, size, and strength, made him a phenomenal football player in the National Football League.
So did the two of you go to the same high school then?
So he went to St. Albans High School in Washington, D.C. I went to St. John's in Washington, D.C. So he went to school, and we both were in Northwest D.C., but St. Albans was more, a little bit more of a higher up as far as price range. It was more of an IAC school. So my brother went to, it was like St. Albans, Bullis, Georgetown Prep. A lot of presidents, children went to some of the schools in that league. And then I had St. John's in the WCAC, like DeMatha, Gonzaga, a ton of great athletes have come out of that conference. Chase Young for the Redskins with the DeMatha, WCAC, arch rival. Dwayne Haskins with DeMatha, arch rival. We just had a lot of athletes play in that WCAC league, which is probably one of the better ones in the country. And that's where I went to school for St. John's.
Gotcha. And did you know, was it obvious that you were going to play football in college and potentially had a chance at the NFL?
Huh, absolutely not, Justin. I got one scholarship offer to college. That's it, to Howard University. And I was very surprised no one came after me. And then I said, man, my football career is over after high school. It is what it is. But Howard showed up at the 11th hour. And I was like, wow, this is an absolute opportunity of a lifetime. My dad went to Howard, played football for the Bison. So I was just so grateful and fortunate to get a full scholarship. I went to Howard University and I enrolled there and started playing football there in 1998.
Nice. So what happened? Why'd you only get one offer?
Great question. My coach messed up my transcript. So everybody thought I was a junior when I was a senior. So by the time I was at Howard, I got a lot of offers from other colleges. And also when I left high school, I was 6'3". When I got to Howard that summer, I grew to almost 6'6". So I grew 3 inches in the summer before I got to college. So I had a lot more height, grew my arm length, and very fortunately for me, that helped me get myself into a position where I could compete to play offensive tackle for the Bison.
Hmm. So you interned at Merrill Lynch. Your initial goal was to be a financial advisor. When did the NFL come into the picture?
You know, it was after my junior season when I saw my name just in a bunch of magazines and draft boards and all this stuff. And so I went to my brother to ask him what he thought. And he said, well, Marcus, at this point, you know, you really are a prospect. So I'm going to tell you right now, give it your all, give it 1 full year. It's your last year of college. Work hard, train hard, give it all you got. And then let's see where the chips fall where they may. And I did that. And I was very fortunate to get his agent become my agent, Marvin Demoff, who was one of the super agents. And as a result of that, I got invited to the Hula Bowl to play as on the Chi team. And we were coached by Mac Brown, who's now the head coach back at North Carolina Chapel Hill. And at the time he was at Texas. So I played against guys from Texas, Rice University, Florida State, Nebraska. My quarterback was Cliff Kingsbury, now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He was my quarterback in the Hula Bowl. You know, played with some phenomenal athletes and played with some great guys. And thank goodness I had a chance to compete there to show my skill sets. And I was drafted into the NFL by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nice. So that game in particular set you up on the stage that showed people in the NFL that you can compete at the same level.
Correct. It showed them that I could compete with the best of the best from the top colleges, because back at that time, Miami, Florida State were the powerhouses. Alabama, LSU, all those other SEC schools were not close. It was all ACC. Again, Florida State, Clemson, Florida State, Clemson. Miami was a huge player back in the day. That's when they had like all the, they had the Willis McGahees, the Ray Lewises. They had us an entire, footprint of athletes for many years. So that was kind of that heyday. So it was more, ACC, Big East were the big conferences back then when I was coming out of college.
Gotcha. So as you mentioned, you were drafted in the 2003 NFL draft, 6th round. And what was that initial feeling after getting drafted? You got to see your brother go through it. Were you there with your brother when he got drafted? And
I was there. I was in New York at the draft. He was drafted number 4 overall by the Ravens. I was right there in the back room, in the green room. Got to see New York City with him as a young person. I was 15 years old at the time, so it was fantastic.
So you'd been daydreaming about that exact same moment for 6, 7, 8 years now. So what was that initial feeling whenever you heard your name?
So honestly, Justin, was like, wow, I've actually made it. I'm here. I'm going to have an opportunity to play in the National Football League. I'm going to have an opportunity to be competing against the best of the best. And as a result of that, I was just elated that all the hard work I had done actually worked out, because there's only 253 people drafted. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna do the math real quick. So you got 32 times 8. only 256 people are drafted every year. That's it, 256. You have 32 teams. There's 7 rounds. That's it. But to be in one of the top 256 athletes coming out of my college year for the whole country really was a testament to my coaching staff, my strength coach, and everybody around me who helped me get to that level.
That's super cool. So your initial signing bonus, I believe if I done my research, 75,000, you were making 400,000 your rookie season. Was there anything you went out and bought right away?
Great question. After I made the team, I actually went out and bought myself a new car, an Escalade, because I was excited for the fact I made it. And I paid 0% interest and kind of all the kind of good stuff. I was trying to be as smart as I could about it, but absolutely, that was my one treat to myself when I did that.
Good for you. And you are pretty financially savvy. I saw a copy of your rookie season budget. What was that? What was there? I was so surprised that someone in yours.
Like I had my rent, I had my car payment, I had my electric, my utilities, I had my gas, I had my entertainment, I had, my miscellaneous. And, I had I was also working towards a vacation money, but really and truly was my main expenses. So I knew I was spending, I would say probably about maybe per month back then around $3 to $4 grand a month. And I think I was making after tax about 10 to 12 a week. No, a little bit more than that, probably about 20, right between 20 to 25 or so a week, after everything. So I was just budgeting all that to kind of keep myself, in that right mind frame, that right mindset.
Do you get paid per week in the NFL? And do you
Yes.
get paid at all during the off season?
No, you get paid $100 per day to work out, but that's it. Other than that, you get paid during, you get, training camp and all that. Everybody gets the same amount. And then when you come into the season, you get whatever your contract is, whatever your salary is, divided by 17.
So you actually ended up playing with your brother for a year, 2 years? How long was that?
2 years.
And how was that experience? Where was your brother at in his career at that point in time?
So that time, my brother was in year 9 and 10. And it was great. It really was, to be able to have somebody like that, to be able to really help me be on the same team, teach me a lot of information that I was not really used to getting. It was absolutely huge for my career to learn how to be a pro, Justin, to learn all the tricks of the trade, how to be a master of your craft. It was big for me in my life, for sure.
And you ended up playing for almost 6 years in the NFL. When did you start thinking about potential life after the NFL?
So I thought about life after the NFL really when I got hurt, and I ended up, seeing that my game was not declining, but my recovery time was declining rapidly, where I couldn't recover as quickly as I like to, or I was used to. And the result of that, it made me realize that football was not going to be forever. And at that time, I still struggled immensely, by the way. I started trying to prepare myself to move on to another part of life. But again, it was very hard because I had been playing football for so many years, Justin. It was not something I was ready to give up. And I still did some other football, like arena football, all this kind of stuff. I did all that, while I, was still trying to adjust. But it was hard. It really was hard trying to have life without football be my everyday life.
Yeah, I played college soccer, so I understand being an athlete and then, spending the last 15, 20 years of your life dedicated to something like that. And then all of a sudden waking up and realizing, wow, this is not my identity anymore. I need to decide where the future lies for me. And it seemed like you really struggled with that, almost like 6 months of pretty severe depression, gambling, drinking,
Big
until
time.
one day you woke up and there was a tattoo. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, man, I remember. So I was at that time, I was drinking a lot. I was getting tattoos, and I woke up one morning. It was probably like 4 or 5 o'clock, and I looked down at my right arm. I said, "Wow, I had this huge, not just a small tattoo, like my whole right arm was covered completely with a tattoo." It said original O, my father's name, had an eagle on it. And I literally I probably sat in the chair for about 4 hours, probably. I was so drunk that I don't remember the tattoo, and I don't even remember how I got home. And that drive was probably 30 minutes at least. So it's amazing I didn't wreck or anything at that time after that. And then that's when I woke up and said, wow, okay, Marques, obviously you got to pick either excessive alcohol abuse or tattoos. You can't have both. And I said, all right, I enjoy the tattoos because it's a family legacy, and it will keep me from drinking, and it'll keep me from excessive behavior. So I put the bottle down, and that's when I got into tattoos, because I was able to use that as my outlet for pain. My father passed away. I lost I had really lost football and lost a sense. I was just struggling to figure out what to do next. And as a result of that, that's when I got into construction, and I still did my tattoos, but I had stopped drinking like that to kind of get myself going on a better balance of life.
So you mentioned you got into construction. You actually, there's little things throughout your life that kind of led to this moment. I think your emphasis in school had a little bit of construction focus. You got involved in a project or program in the NFL that gave you some experience there. What ultimately led you to starting Kayden Premier Enterprises?
So what happened was I went to a little work event. It was like a networking event, trying to figure out, it was like for small local businesses, in Baltimore. I didn't have a business at the time. So I just went to the event, started networking, meeting people. And I remember meeting this gentleman who then introduced me to my business partner, and we were all three going to form a business. But we did a background check on everybody. The guy who introduced us had a really bad record of theft and fraud, embezzlement. So we removed him and then started Kayden Premier Enterprises with my partner and I. And I'll never forget, we started the business, Justin. It struggled. It was kind of trying to get some traction. I remember going to an event at Morgan State University where Congressman Elijah Cummings was speaking to the audience, and Congressman Elijah Cummings ended up becoming, shortly thereafter that, Barack Obama's really good confidant, and they became really good friends. And, they had a really strong relationship for many years. And I'll never forget, Congressman Cummings said, someone in this room will become the next major minority contractor. Why can't it be you? And I'm never going to forget that. And with those words, Justin, I dug in, got serious, and leveraged opportunity after opportunity. And we built an 8-figure-a-year construction empire in downtown Baltimore, and became the largest African-American subcontractor in the city of Baltimore, in the state of Maryland, for 2 years.
So going back to your business partner, what led you guys to running background checks on each other? That's kind of interesting.
Well, I remember just hearing from the NFL, just different people, if people won't let you run a background check on them, they have something to hide. And so I wanted to do that because I wanted to make sure that him and the other gentleman didn't have anything looming, which I'm glad we did, because the other guy, he did have a lot of things looming that would have been really bad for us to get into business with.
And did you know, whenever you brought up the suggestion of background checks, that he was not gonna pass the test?
I had no idea, none. And so we just did it. And then once we found out, we let him know after that. But when we did it, Justin, we had no idea, because we just just standard, no problem. But we had pages and pages of stuff in the civil court system. So it just didn't work out.
That's unbelievable. I don't know what he was expecting that
I
that
don't
would
either.
get covered
I
up.
don't either. I'm thinking, I was like, what did you think was going to happen? And so, but yeah, man. So, it's you said that. I mean, it was just so crazy for that to happen. But, it's wild. I'll never forget that. It was just absolutely nuts.
Mm. So you built a successful contracting business. Lasted 6 7 years,
6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
At your peak, you're an 8-figure business, had 50 to 60 employees, and then things turned sideways. And maybe we can segue into that with the story of your senior estimator. Can you share with that?
Yeah, sure. So my senior estimator came to me in July of 2012, trying to explain to me that, no, sorry, it wasn't July, it was August of 2012, trying to explain to me that if we didn't make some corrections, we were going to go bankrupt because we were spending way too much money on a job in downtown Baltimore. And he said, if we don't get out of this job site, we will go bankrupt. We will go broke. And I'm like, Colin, what are you talking about? We have a line of credit, have all these jobs. He said, Marques, we're not putting enough manpower on the other jobs. And we're sitting here doing a bunch of work with no money coming in because we didn't have a signed change order, but the contractor shook my hand and I trusted them. And when this happened, unfortunately, Justin, I had evolved from a humble servant leadership boss into a egomaniac, self-centered, arrogant prick, where everything I thought was gold. I thought I could do no wrong. I thought I was basically, I was just the best thing smoking. And as a result of that, I got into a really bad spot. And, everything came crashing down. So that following Monday, Colin comes in, he hands me his 2-week resignation papers. And like he predicted, 6 months to the day when he walked out, the company ended up preparing for a Chapter 7 complete financial bankruptcy as a result of me making some really bad decisions and getting myself caught into some really bad spots. But it all started with me being an egomaniac that didn't listen to his trusted team members, and it cost me everything.
So, and I'm not sure if this story is true or not, but you guys actually had an investor on the line that was going to dig you out of this hole until your partner lied to the investor and they ended up walking. Is that true?
That's 100% true. Yep. And the investor's father is a very, very well-known individual. And it was his son, it was Junior, his name was Junior. Well, it was his son's father's name, Junior. So he was his father's youngest son. And, it was interesting. They were set and prepared to write a check for a couple $1 million to buy out my partner. But unfortunately, my partner didn't tell the truth. And when he did not do that, didn't tell the truth, they ended up finding out about this whole situation. And then from there, what happens? They end up rescinding the offer, saying we don't, under the pretenses of Arthur making false statements to us and not telling us the truth, we're going to pull this offer because we don't know if anything else that he said is not true, and we're going to pull the deal. And once that happened, Justin, that was January, that was late January, early February 2013. March of 2013, we started packing up, and April 2013, we had April 15, 2013, I officially left Baltimore at that time.
Yeah, and it sounded like you left Baltimore in a hurry. Things came crashing down real quickly. At one point in time, you had like a couple $100 to your name. Is this true? 400. Holy cow.
That's it.
And things were looking really, really bleak at that time. You didn't have kids, did you?
I didn't. Oh, I had my fiance had a daughter who was my stepdaughter, but I did not have a birth daughter, but it might as well have been my daughter because I was raising her. And we've been married now it'll be 6 years in May. And, my daughter Ava's like, I'm like, Dad, because her father lives in Taiwan. So she was my stepdaughter, but I was basically, responsible for her at that time. So yes.
So you had two other people to support along with yourself.
Mhm.
What was going through your head at that time? How were you going to make ends meet?
Justin, at that time, everything was everybody else's fault. My business partner, my employees, I was living a life of complete shame, of always blaming others and no accountability, no responsibility. I was working at Merrill Lynch in Durham for a short time. For about 2 months, I got fired, got a job the next day to a construction company, was fired again. And when I moved down here, Justin, we were 1 week away being homeless. My wife was going to go live with her parents. I was going to move into a homeless shelter because we were only dating for about 4 months at that time. And I was not going to do that because I didn't really know them. But because the NFL stepped in to pay some bills for 4 months, we were able to stay into our rental. And that's how I was working at Merrill. So I was working, had a job. I was like ready to go, but I wasn't doing well in that. So I got fired. Then I got fired by the construction company because I was working their sales store part of their operation. They shut it down and fired me after 5 days. And then I took a job just as a custodian, making $8.25 an hour on the graveyard shift. And that's when I had the pivotal moment where somebody's rotten meat and banana peel and spoiled milk all over my skin, my clothes, and my gloves. And I said, wow, what's put me here is no accountability, no ownership, no belief in myself. As a result of that, I literally have ended up right here on this curb in the back alley as a custodian, making $8.25 an hour on the graveyard shift, 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. And there's nothing wrong with being a custodian because at the end of the day, it's a job and you support your family. So I totally support that. But what was for me was I had done so much more through education, sports, built a big business, and I lost it all. And I ended up there, not because I chose to go and work there, but because I had no choice, because I made some really bad decisions around, how to sustain a business.
So I can only imagine it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I think the story goes like you didn't see the rip in the front of the bag. And then when you went to throw it into the trash can, all of that came out. This is sitting on you. You're just sitting there on the curb, just looking back on all these choices that led to this moment. So what was your first action out to start progressing or moving out of that current situation? What did you decide to do?
So after sitting on the curb, holding my head in my hands and crying because I had realized that what had got me here was no accountability, no ownership, no structure, I went home that morning and I wrote down my 3 biggest strengths and I put into my mental computer. After those strengths, it makes the best sense for me to get into keynote speaking. And that's when I started.
What were your 3 strengths?
Great question. I was good at communication. I was good at telling stories and I wanted to help people. So I figured with those 3 strengths, I could build a speaking business. But nobody told me that speaking needs to have, a process. You need to have great stories. You need to be able to stay on topic. You need to be able to relate to the audience. And I work with a lot of clients now. I was actually on a call with one of my clients trying to help her with her speech. She has her first speech coming up on the 21st of February. And it's a lot. It's very stressful for her. She's just kind of struggling with how to move and how to progress and how to make things flow for herself. And again, I remember those days, like my first talk, she's kind of writing out all this different stuff and all this stuff. I'm like, look, you don't need to do that. You need to summarize, have your table of contents, have a few bullet points under each chapter, go to the next one to stay on track. But a lot of my clients sometimes they really don't understand that it's really not about your story as much as the action steps you can tell the audience to help them in their lives. So again, that first talk, I did was for the Boys and Girls Club in in October 2013. And Justin, first 2.5 years, I got not one paid job, not one. It was all free or no for every paid speaking job, every single one. And looking back on it, I realized I was very desperate. I was not good at marketing, and my pipeline was so thin to non-existent. If I ever got somebody on the phone, I was trying to close the deal right away. I was so desperate. Whereas today, I have so many different people I talk to. I'm always doing podcasts. I'm always marketing, just, never stop. And because of that, that's where we're at this point of having this successful track record of work. And so I finally got my first paid job in April 2016. And I finally got that with Miller Mock College in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I haven't looked back since, Justin. I've worked for 19 Fortune 500 companies. I've done national, international. I have industries from football to sports to technology to home improvement to food product and service to transportation and logistics. And I've been very fortunate. I do one-on-one coaching, consulting, speaking. I've written 2 books. But to be totally honest, everybody, I'm just a guy that went through a whole lot of ups and downs. And I'm a guy that literally hit rock bottom in about 7.5 years ago. And I was at one point making $8.25 an hour. And now today, if you want me on stage, live, I'm charging you 15 grand for the hour. And if you want me virtual, I'm charging you 5 grand for the hour if I don't have to leave my house. And I have had to work for this for years. Like I said, it's been almost 7.5 years of me working at this. And it's been 5 years in April of this year from my first paid job to where I'm at now.
So how did you not get discouraged over those 2.5 years? Former NFL player, ran a successful business. The story is incredible. I'm assuming you walked into your speaking opportunities thinking, this is a done deal. I should be able to get people to hire me easily. How did you stay committed over 2.5 years to finally get that paid speaking gig?
Well, what happened, I tell everybody, is that you get told no so many times that it becomes kind of like your own mission to keep going. When everybody told me just I was making a mistake, go be a football coach, go work for a high school, go be a teacher. I heard so much from people, go do this, go do that. I'm like, well, just because you want me to go and do something doesn't mean I should just go and do it. I would prefer to go out and try to inspire people. And I tell everybody all the time, it's about being inspired over motivated. So when you're inspired, you're all about breathing hope and life into others. And what you're looking to do is help them get to where they want to go. If you're motivated, you do something for, I call external forces and or gain. Money, notoriety, fame, all these things. With my construction company, it was all about motivation and motivating factors. Money, notoriety, fame, that's all I was about. Versus today as a speaker, I'm all about helping others, inspiring others, and giving them all the action steps necessary to get to where they want to go. So I just didn't want to give up on myself. Even though there were days I wanted to throw the towel in, many days, I just didn't do it. And I said, I'm working a bunch of other jobs, football training, doing 7-on-7 leagues. I was a birthday clown at parties. I did anything and everything I had to do. And I never gave up. And I never gave up on my dream. I never gave up on my goal. And I never gave up on my aspiration. And, I tell everybody all the time, maybe I was crazy to keep going for 2.5 years. Maybe I was. But if I didn't do it, where I'm at today, who I am today would not exist.
So good. Marques, as we're closing up this conversation, I'm going to share a couple social media links and feel free to add as you please, but you're pretty easy to find on social on Instagram. You're Marques Ogden. On LinkedIn, just search Marques Ogden. Twitter, Marques_Ogden. And then you can find your website is marquesogden.com. Anywhere else that you would like to point people to?
No, you got LinkedIn, you got Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simplistic. And what we're doing now is, I'm glad you asked that question. You can go to our website and we just created a subscription model program, right? People can pay $7.95 a month or $14.95 a month for access to content, right? The $7.95 is all about you're going to get 12 videos per month, right? Actually 13. 13 videos per month geared towards certain topics, right? Time management, like efficiency, goal setting, creating a vision, like, how to create your blueprint, all these different talking points. Again, 13 videos per month for $7.95 for the month total. Or you can do $14.95, get access to that. Plus, you can subscribe to our closed Facebook group for words of encouragement. We're doing lives every week. And what I tell everybody is, a lot of people, Justin, I totally understand this and I totally get where it comes from because it's a crazy world today. They can't afford my one-on-one coaching price, or they can't afford to hire me on stage. I get it. But we created the subscription model for people who want to be great, but couldn't afford the price point of the higher level ticket price items. So this is $7.95 a month for access to all the content, or you could pay $14.95 a month for access to all the content, plus be part of our closed Facebook group to get you access and give you videos and tips. And the videos are very short. One video is like 2 minutes long each month. The rest are under a minute. It's not about shoving a bunch of stuff at you. It's about, here's what you can do. And again, Justin, a quick action step for the day in a certain topic designed to help you get to where you want to go. So you can go to our website, www.marquesogden.com, and you can go right to the homepage, and it says right there, subscription. Just hit the subscribe button, put it on there, and you have access to content every other day. It's 13 videos a month. We go one Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and comes back that following Monday. So it's very much organized and oriented, Justin, to help people get on track and stay on track that, again, want to be great, want to achieve a high level of success, but unfortunately, because of the times we're in, can't afford the higher price items, which we totally understand. So we create this to help people, no matter what you make, help give you information to get where you want to go.
Thanks for sharing that. So my final question typically revolves around teaching a class on a subject that you would like to pick, but I'm going to pick the subject for you because through research, something that impressed me so much about you is ownership, is taking ownership. You even talked about your struggle of the lack of ownership, but now you are so open to sharing your faults and where you wish you would have taken ownership. So if you had a group of seniors in their final semester of college and you had 16 weeks to teach them about entrepreneurship, what would you give them?
I would teach them there's 5 golden rules of entrepreneurship. Number 1, know your business. I did not know construction when I started, which is why I failed. Know your business. Second thing, if you have one, vet your partner. Background checks, run it through the system. If somebody won't give you their social security number, that's your business partner, don't work with them. If they won't give you their social security number to do a background check on them, don't work with them. Third, vet all your employees. Whoever you hire represents your brand. If they come out looking raggedy, unprofessional, unreliable, it reflects your brand at the highest level. Fourth thing, always be properly funded. When we started our business, we were very well funded for concrete and demolition. When we became an earthwork contractor, we were not properly funded for that business, which is why when we spent that money and had none in reserves, we went bankrupt. Last part, know when to walk away. So those are the 5 principles of business that I live by. Number 1, know your business. Number 2, if you have one, vet your partner. Number 3, before you hire anybody, vet your employees. Number 4, always be properly funded. And number 5, if things start to go the wrong way, know when to walk away.
Awesome. I think that is a great place to end this conversation. Marques, I appreciate it. Everybody go check out Marques. His book links are down below. His social media links are down below. If you want to consume more of him, go check out his website, sign up for his subscription program. Marques, I really appreciate you coming on The Struggle is Real.
Justin, thanks a lot for having me, my good friend. Appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you like this conversation today, be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified about new episodes. If you want to connect with me, send me a message on Instagram. I'm at Justin Lee Peters. You can find show notes with links to everything we discussed today at justinpeters.co. This episode was produced by Gabby Dimeke. I'm your host, Justin Peters. Thanks for tuning in.